Welcome back, everybody, to Neutrality Studies. Today with a very special guest. I've got with me Mohammad AlTurk, a Palestinian recent university graduate and a citizen of Gaza City who's coming to us from Gaza City. Mohammad, welcome.
Thank you, Pascal, for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm very glad that you can be here and that we can talk. Mohammad, just maybe before we start, can you very briefly show us around what your environment looks like? Because you're actually in a part of Gaza City, you told me, that is not that badly destroyed. That is not that where the war is not that visible. Can you show us what that looks like?
Yes, I can show you what things outside the window look like.
And so this is a building that is in use at the moment where you're in one of the structures that is standing, and you're having also a decent internet connection there, right?
Yes, a lot of buildings in the strip, most of them are wiped out, basically, but the ones that are damaged, yeah, they are inhabited. There are people living inside them. Yeah.
And how is the so what happened to you? Can you describe that a little bit, and maybe also interlace that with your studies at the Islamic University of Gaza for the last 2.5 years of the genocide? What was what did you go through?
Yes. So I was a university student when it was my third year, actually, the first semester. And I used to go to university like all other students. And my professor, you might know him, he was Rifat Al-Arail, who was assassinated by Israel in December 2023. I actually used to sit in the front row seats close to him, so I would be paying attention. He was a lovely person, and he was assassinated 2 or 3 days into the genocide. Israel struck the university. It was bombed, uh, and the library building was bombed. The building that I used to study in, to take my classes in, was bombed. Several buildings were bombed, and I just never imagined that this thing would happen, a university being bombed. And it was bombed several times throughout the genocide. I went to it just to see it. I go to university by foot. It takes me 15 minutes to go there. And in January 2025, that's when the ceasefire that went into effect one day before Trump's inauguration. I went to see the university, and it's a camp for displaced people. There were a few buildings that were damaged, but they weren't destroyed completely. Now they are. Now that's a year and a half later, everything is destroyed in the university, and I actually took a video of it. I went back, so they resorted to online learning. I continued my studies in September 2024, and I started taking classes and semesters. That's how we do it. And in the end, I graduated 2 months ago. It's a bachelor's degree, and it was a PDF file. It's not a paper. It's not a physical paper or a degree. It's a PDF file. So I was glad that I graduated. It was a lovely university, lovely people, lovely professors, um, and yeah, that's how it was with my university.
Well, congratulations first and foremost for graduating. And now you're a freelance translator. You studied, if I understood correctly, English language and graduated in that. what is life like now in Gaza after 2.5 years? How is your family and how are your friends? Did you lose people?
I lost people, at the beginning. That was in November 2023. I used to send SMS messages to my classmates, checking on them, saying, "Hey, are you okay?" Um, some of them fled to the south because in the beginning, Israel issued these evacuation orders in northern Gaza, telling everybody to leave. Now, we did not leave. We stayed in northern Gaza. Some people fled, and in November, they established this Netzarim corridor that split Gaza into two, northern Gaza and southern Gaza. So anyone can go from the north to the south, but you can't go from the south to the north. If you try to do that, to return, you would be shot and killed. And that happened to some Palestinians. They tried to go home and they were killed. And so I used to send these SMS messages. Some of them got back to me, some of them did not. And I later discovered that some of them who did not get back to me were actually killed. There was this guy, his name is Ali. He fled to the south, to Khan Yunis, and he was killed there. He followed the instructions of the Israeli military. They told him it was a safe zone, and he fled there, and he was bombed and killed there. And others were killed as well, but that's the one who comes to my mind because um, before the genocide, I had a kind of close relationship with him. He was 1 year older than me, but he attended some classes as me, and we used to, chat and talk, and it's very sad.
Of course. No, it is. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, the videos that have come out of Gaza were like honestly the worst thing that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like the level of death and destruction and the way also in which these bombings then just blew up people in the middle of 10 cities and so on. Where did you live? I mean, you and your family, how is everyday life unfolding? I also saw a video of yours where you're showing how people are running after water trucks. So basic necessities of life are to this day very much disrupted, aren't they?
They are, but let me tell you. But let's go back a few years. So I was obviously born here and lived here all my life. Um, I lived in As-Sabra neighborhood in southern Gaza City, and in 2016 we moved to Al-Rimal neighborhood in western Gaza City. 2 years later, in 2018, uh, the building that it was an apartment. We lived in an apartment. The building that we used to live in was bombed and destroyed. And so we had to rent an apartment in another place in the same neighborhood. And so we have been renting this apartment since 2018. We used to own that apartment, which is no longer exist. Um, so since 2018, the home was bombed and destroyed. Most people in Gaza live in tents. I experienced that myself when we fled to the south uh, 2 weeks before the ceasefire, this current big ceasefire. The Israeli forces were advancing in Gaza City, and you have the Israeli defense minister saying, "We're going to make Gaza City look like Rafah and Bet Hanun," meaning they're going to wipe them all out. It just doesn't exist anymore. And it was scary. So we fled there, and I experienced what it's like to live in a tent, and oof, it is horrific. Um, but the ceasefire was announced, and we got back to Gaza City. It's but when I see when never in my life I would have imagined what happened. I walk in the street. I was walking in the street to this place that I'm doing the interview with you, and there were people sitting on the sidewalk waiting for bread. Because what happens is it's from the so bread arrives in a supermarket, like a van or a car carrying this bread, and they give the bread to the supermarket, and they start selling the bread for a symbolic price, for 3 shekels. And they are just waiting, like in line for the van to arrive. Uh, you have, um, when I walk in Gaza City, for example, like I see people looking through the trash, kids like in dirty clothes, carrying these bags on their backs, um, women and men, old people. And not only are they looking for something to eat, but they're also looking for cardboard. They use it for fire, for cooking, because Israel almost restricts cooking gas to Gaza. So people have to use wood and cardboard. And I have used cardboard myself. Uh, what I do is basically I have a tin, like a metal tin. Um, it looks like a cube, but it's empty from the inside. And so I put cardboard inside the tin, and I put a pot or food like pasta or rice or whatever. And there's like fire underneath the pot from the cardboard. So these people use that, these kids, some of them collect plastic bottles. There are people who uh, sort of, I don't know what exactly it is, but they melt the plastic and turn it into some kind of artificial fuel. And I have passed one of those places. It's a place on beach. Uh, and there's black smoke coming out of that place, and people just all in black in that place, um, trying to burning nylons and plastic bottles and stuff like that to kind of make fuel, I think. Uh, like I could just go on and on.
So at the moment, everybody is in a sort of survival mode, trying to get by somehow. Um, what's your estimate of how many people do you think have perished in the genocide? Because the numbers we are getting are, I mean, anyone's guess at this moment, but it's definitely not the 60, 70,000 that we're reading about. What is your guess from what you're seeing on the ground? How many what percentage do you think is not in Gaza anymore?
So the numbers from the Ministry of Health are false because these people have lost their ability to count. Uh, by the way, they only count the bodies that arrive at the hospital. So if a Palestinian was killed and his body was not brought to a hospital, it doesn't count. Uh, it's a genocide. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed, injured, abducted, or went missing, which usually means they're either killed or abducted by the Israelis. It's it's an unimaginable number. I don't know what the exact number is, but these numbers that you see are false. The actual number is much higher than that.
What and what is happening now? I mean, as we speak today on June 19th, for the first time ever, I think the United States was forced to actually stop one of its military onslaughts, the one in against Iran. And we're seeing how Israel is and Lebanon is included in that agreement that was just made. And just before we started, you told me that you're feeling that things are starting to change. Can you maybe discuss that a bit?
Absolutely. I'm very glad and happy that this agreement uh, came into effect. This is basically a defeat for the US. and it's a victory for Iran. Um, the U.S. military presence, I think, in my opinion, the most important part of the agreement is pulling U.S. forces out of the Middle East. Now, they didn't say that they're going to pull out everything, but they will definitely reduce their military presence. And American military presence in the region primarily serves Israel. And I think you have seen that the US used more interceptors to protect Israel more than Israel used for itself. And so when the when the military, US military is reducing its presence, this doesn't make Israel as protected as it used to be. And so it will be, it might be, it's not a guarantee to rethink what they're doing in Lebanon and Gaza. Now they're still bombing Lebanon and they're trying to advance. And I was reading the news before coming on here. There are clashes in southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Ministry of Health said 16 people were killed by Israel during the night. And there's also Hebrew channels reporting casualties in the Israeli soldiers and forces. There are killed and wounded. And the Israelis are furious, I think, about this agreement. I follow some Israeli channels, and some of them are attacking Trump personally, which is not something they have done before. They are calling him names. Uh, so this is a very good development. I'm very glad that it happened, and uh, I think that the tide is turning against Israel. You know, Israel depends on the U.S. Israel. It's not a normal country. When you look at how Israel was established and created, this is not a normal country. It's a foreign entity, and it relies on external support. The airplanes that they had, the Apache helicopters that I have seen, their warplanes, Israeli warplanes and Apache helicopters, they fly sometimes at low altitudes above Gaza City, and they keep dropping these flares. I think it's like a show of host when they do that. So these equipment that they have, most of them are American made. So they rely on the US. Um, and you see the, the, the public opinion towards Israel, it's at a historic all-time low. It has never been like this before, and it will never go back to the way it was. This is only going forward. And what this will lead to in the future is a reduction in US aid to Israel and possibly cutting off all the aid to Israel. Now they're trying to integrate the US and the Israeli militaries, but uh, I feel like I've talked a lot, but this is a very positive development. Now Israel is still bombing Gaza and Lebanon, but uh, they won't keep doing that forever. And there will come a time in which the Israelis, the war criminals, will be held accountable. This cannot and will not continue forever.
I'm glad to hear that this is the impression that you're getting being there in Gaza. But when you hear this word ceasefire and when they announce that and then the bombing still continue, I mean, what does that, how are you making sense out of this? It seems to me and us in the West constantly that the idea of a ceasefire to Israel means that the other side stops shooting while they keep plowing on as usual. What are the actual effects for you? Like when the ceasefire came, did things actually get better, or did they just get differently bad?
So this is very interesting that we've said, which is similar to what my professor Rifat Al said. Ceasefire, we seize, they fire. That's how it is. when the first ceasefire was announced, the one that came into effect one day before Trump's inauguration, everybody in Gaza was happy, including me, because we thought that this was it. The genocide is over, the aggression is over. We can go back to to our homes. Um, and Israel, of course, continued to bomb and kill Palestinians, and they killed 150 Palestinians. And in March, so 2 months into the ceasefire, March 18th, they resumed the genocide at the full scale. They launched airstrikes during the night, killing over 600 Palestinians, and they said the war is back, the genocide is back, um, just fully breaching the agreement. And when you look at the media at the time, they said resumption of hostilities. They didn't say it was Israel breaching the whole agreement, because these media outlets are Zionists. They shape the narrative. And in this ceasefire, fake ceasefire, when it was announced, we were in Deir el-Balah, in central the Gaza Strip, and I was laying on a mattress. It was in the evening, and I started hearing people cheering. There were a lot of tents around us, and I didn't understand what was happening. Why were they cheering or whistling? And it turned out that there was a ceasefire, and Trump, said there's peace in the Middle East after 3,000 years or whatever. And I thought this was it. Okay, this time, this is it. There's the war, the genocide, it's over, and we're gonna go back to our homes. Now, most people have lost their homes by that point, because in the genocide that followed the genocide during Trump's term, it was basically what the Israelis were doing is demolish homes in Gaza. Not many people know how Gaza was demolished, but it's not by airstrikes, it's by bulldozers. And they have D9 bulldozers, which are American made. They're military bulldozers, very powerful. And they would just ram Palestinian homes with these bulldozers, and it would just the whole thing collapse. For taller buildings, they use the engineering units. They put explosives in these homes. These are residential buildings, and they blow them up at once, and they film themselves while they're celebrating. You know, there was this rabbi who was treated as a hero on national television. He's a Statler from the West Bank, and he's a terrorist. He was a D9 bulldozer driver, and he came into Jabalia. There was a raid into Jabalia, northern Gaza, in October 2024. Now, that was during Biden, obviously. And what Israeli forces did in Jabalia was demolish as many homes as they could. And so this guy, he was interviewed on Israeli television, and he used to talk about how he used to demolish. They asked him, "How many homes did you demolish?" And he said 50 homes per week, and like showing his dedication to demolishing homes. He said that they have, referring to Palestinians, they have nothing left to return to. They have no ID numbers, or cards, or whatever, or memories. And he was sad at the fact that they were on the outskirts of Beit Lahia, which is north of Jabalia, because the ceasefire went into effect, so they had to retreat. And he was sad because they did not demolish Beit Lahia. It's terroristy things and beliefs they have. And they're doing the same thing in Lebanon. They're absolute savages.
What is what is your what's your impression of the people who are still in Gaza? Your friends, your family, you yourself. Um, once this comes to an end, what's the future for Gaza? And how determined are you and people around you to stay in Gaza and rebuild it? Like, is there any kind of vision for the future of your home?
Unfortunately, in the near and medium term future, I do not think this will continue. I think they will keep getting worse as they are right now. I mean, yesterday Israel bombed Gaza and killed 3 Palestinians, or 4 maybe. The day before yesterday, they bombed Gaza, killed 4. Uh, and they continue to demolish Palestinian homes even during this fake ceasefire. So, in terms of hope for the future, on the long term, yes, I think there is hope in a distant future, but in the near the short term and medium term uh, future, I don't, I'm not optimistic, unfortunately.
And when we talk about the politics of it all, the politics of genocide, the politics of what enabled this, who do you think is to blame for what happened to you? Because, of course, the IDF are those who implement the genocide, but we have all of those countries who enable it, first and foremost the United States, but so is Germany, so is the mass media, so is the political process in the West. It's an incredible political crime on a scale that is was to me almost impossible to imagine. Where where do you where do you think that the prime responsibility for this lies?
On Zionists all around the world. Uh, Obviously, Israel is the Zionist entity, but you have Zionists, especially in the West. The Zionist lobby is the strongest lobby. You say, it used to be a few years ago, you say a word about Israel and you lose your job, you get sued, uh, be put in prison. Uh, So those people who controlled the narrative for decades, the media who shaped the narrative in Israel's favor, when Israel does something bad, they do this both sides crap. Uh, when so even people like the indoctrination was so powerful that people used to think people in the West, meaning used, especially in the US, used to think that they have some kind of obligation to support Israel, give them endless amount of money and weapons until forever. This is how deep the indoctrination was. And so I blame the Zionists, the uh, people like, uh, you know, there are people in Congress and Senate, Trump, Biden, uh, I such so many people. I don't know what they.
Yeah, the of course the extended Zionist network of political power and control within also the West that then enables this. But let me maybe ask you on the other side. We talked a little bit about Iran and the fact that the United States won. And actually, when I interview people from Iran, especially Professor Mohammad, he keeps pointing out that Iran, although it is a Shia country, is very strongly supporting and on the side of Sunni Gaza. Do you think that the way that the axis of resistance is working, that this will have an impact also on the Muslims in West Asia? And how are you viewing the impact of Shia Islam versus Sunni Islam within the region in the context of what happened?
Um, I'm not a theologian, but what Iran has been doing, Hezbollah and these Ansarullah in Yemen, what they have been doing. Uh, who else was resisting Israel? Who else was firing missiles and drones at Israel? This is a fight. It's Zionism against humanity. And those people who are fighting Israel, I respect them. And I wish them to be more successful in their fight against Israel and against Zionism. Um, I am a Sunni, and of course, Iran are Shia, but uh, this is not something that I think about or contemplate. Like, okay, I am Sunni, they are Shia. Okay, it's like it's not something I think about. It's
Okay, no, that's just what I wanted to understand, whether this is something that's on your mind or not. But in that case, it's not. And the question really is one of humanity against inhumanity. What do you think about the possibilities of the future? If somebody offered you the possibility for a two-state solution, or the possibility of a one-state solution, or any form of political arrangement, what would it be that you would think you could say yes to after everything you had to live through?
so. Well, the two-state solution, it's dead now.
Yeah,
It's been for a long time.
yeah.
Um, what I would like to see, if you want to know the truth, is uh, for Israel to look like Gaza. I know that's people wouldn't say that, but Israel has committed the crime of all crimes, and I want to see them lose the support. I want to see the U.S. and uh, the West in general, which has been supporting Israel. Now, Israel would not have been able to commit this genocide if it weren't for the West and the U.S. The bombs they drop, all American. The airplanes are all American. And I want to see them lose that support. And without that support, Israel will not be able to attack anyone, will not be able to commit genocide, to commit atrocities and war crimes. And like I said, Israel, it's not a normal country. Uh, Anyone who has been following this genocide 2.5 years, I think will come to the conclusion that the problem is not uh, Netanyahu's right-wing government or the violent settlers in the West Bank. The problem is Israel's itself. Like, that's the problem. They're just bombing everybody. But like I said, that they will not be doing that until forever. A time will come, and I don't think it's that far, in which they will not be able to attack and commit war crimes and atrocities.
Do you how do you think that the how do you think that this history will be written? Because one of the attempts was, of course, to write this off as an act of self-defense of Israel, right? The victim narrative that Israel has been trying to propagate um, was huge. I mean, they tried with everything they had, and it failed. In my view, it's in the Western media, in the global South, it is utterly clear who is the perpetrator of the genocide and who is the victim of it. And I'm convinced that the International Court of Justice, will eventually come to the conclusion that it is a genocide. Um, how how do you think what do you think will be written about this time and the culpability of the different parts, and what are you expecting from the international community about the future of Gaza?
How history will be written? I think they will write about the the endless support for Israel in committing this genocide. How they have went above and beyond to provide Israel with anything that it needs to, or even if they don't need it, they just gave it to them anyway to perpetrate what they did in Gaza and Lebanon, other places. But like you said, this Israel having the right to defend itself, which has become like a mantra. Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel has the right to exist. Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. All these things are no longer working as they once did. And so history will be written in the right way, that this is a genocide. Israel were the bad guys. Zionists are the bad guys. They've always been the bad guys, but it wasn't this wasn't the way it was portrayed. But now it will be going forward. Um, so many people are complicit in supporting Israel and running cover for their crimes, and they will be judged. History will judge them for doing that.
Do you view, in the discussions I've had on my channel, there were several people who pointed out that uh, Israel and Zionism is really only one of the latest manifestations of something very, very old and very European. This colonialism, settler colonialism, and the attempt at eradicating locals and replacing them with people from Europe. I mean, this is what the Europeans did to the entire North American continent, almost completely. But it is something that they're also trying in the East. Do you also interpret what is happening as a form of European colonialism and a European attempt at conquering your land?
So the way Israel was created, it's people from Europe. It's Jewish Zionist immigrants who came into Palestine and took it by force. The first Israeli prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, he's a Polish guy. He was born in Poland, I believe, and he came to the land and said, God promised this to me 3,000 years ago. The second prime minister is a Ukrainian. The third prime minister, also Ukrainian. So those are people who came from Europe. They came into the land and they took it by force. And of course, the British helped them create this Zionist entity. So you are accurate and correct.
I'm asking this question because putting the blame on Israel, especially in Europe, is a very easy way out. It's the easy card out of saying like, no, it was these violent people of a couple of politicians in Israel. But that would be taking it very too short. The entire project of Israel of having a European state, an outpost in West Asia, and then growing it over time, that to me is just the impact of something that the West never has confronted. The fact that it didn't stop to be a colonial power, colonial enterprise, that it never truly stopped trying to expand. And you are on the very visible end of the very violent end of this. When everything else fails, you go to mass murder, of course. Do you think that there's a future? I mean, if Palestine comes back, or I mean, Palestine is already there. There's a lot of countries that recognize Palestine, that recognize also Gaza as part of Palestine, and that would give immediately a seat in the General Assembly. Palestine has a seat in several UN agencies. How do you think Palestine as a state will in the future approach the international community, and especially the West, when it comes to asking for or demanding justice for what happened?
That's an interesting question. So the international community and this world order that we're living in right now is changing. So in the future, there might not be. Look, the international community means the West for the most part. And I don't see, I don't think this is something that might happen in the future. Palestine demanding the Palestinian delegation demanding like justice for what for the genocide. I think going forward might be a different world order. Like these things might not exist. They might exist and they might not. So this things are changing, and I don't know if this will happen on in the future or not. Yeah.
Um, and what do you think? What do you think will people around you do now? You know, when it comes to rebuilding Gaza, what would be your biggest ask of the West, but also the world at large? Like, how can people help Gaza um, as soon as Gaza is reachable from the outside, as soon as the siege is broken? What would Gaza need first and foremost, and how would you go about rebuilding life there?
Well, the one preventing the reconstruction of Gaza is Israel. So the first thing would be to uh, lift the siege. Some people have asked me that question, like how to support Gaza. And in my opinion, I think the way to do that is to support, and this is my opinion, support media outlets and content creators who pushed back against the Zionist propaganda. Uh, People who do investigative work about Israel, about what Israel is doing. Um, People who do that. So those people would have more audience, more outreach, and influence so that they could have an impact, a real impact in uh, making the support for Israel, uh, reducing the support, making it decrease, and hopefully ending all support for Israel in one's country. Um, for example, you have Anthony Aguilar. He's the GHF whistleblower. I have watched several of his interviews. He's an incredible person. Uh, and I messaged him on Instagram a few months ago. I told him, "Hey, I'm from Gaza and I have seen your interviews and I want to thank you for speaking up." And he responded with a heart emoji. So someone like that, um, I think a lot of people know him, know his story, know what he saw and experienced in these GHF death traps. So this person has been influential. He had an impact. You might know the APAC tracker, that's the one that does the red graphs and the green graphs. I mean, it has been effective, I think. So those people, those outlets, I think, should be supported. Their work should be supported, and this is, I think, my way to support Gaza.
So, in your view, first the propaganda needs to be broken in order to then break the genocidal system of violence. Is that the sequence that you're seeing?
Yes.
Hmm. Again, I mean, you're of course younger than I am, but we are both from a moment in time when at least I thought this kind of mass violence was over or wasn't possible anymore because of the presence of mass media. But turns out that mass media is the enabling factor that makes it possible. So I think you're absolutely right. And if the Gaza genocide proves one thing, then it is that we must be vigilant about the kind of information that is out that is out there and that is trying to lull us into complicity with crimes like the one that's happening to you. Do you have any um, intuition about what can be done in order to break through? I mean, you on the one hand, you're living in Gaza. Of course, you see firsthand what is happening, and I think the videos that are coming out of Gaza are very important for for informing people like me outside of Gaza what is actually occurring to you. But is there any other intuition that you have what can be done in order to break also the media monopoly on information?
Another thing, calling for putting pressure on governments to end their support for Israel, boycotting Israel products, calling for an arms embargo on Israel, BDS, boycott, divestment, sanction, calling for Israeli soldiers who take vacations in Europe or Thailand or wherever to be arrested. They should be arrested and tried, preventing, cutting off relations with Israel, not allowing, sanctioning Israeli officials, sanctioning the grand terrorist Benjamin Netanyahu and his goons, and his the Israeli soldiers do things like this. And this is not something that happens overnight. It's a process. It's a long process, but in the end, I believe that it will have results.
Right. I think so too. And one of the most surreal moments for me in the last years was going to Thailand and being in a hotel where there are a lot of Israeli tourists are vacationing. And of course, there's not a single Palestinian tourist there, of course, for natural reasons. It's really, the scale at which genocide is a crime committed by several groups at the same time, and one group being able to live a normal life and have vacations, and the other one just dying en masse. That's it's something I just couldn't imagine that we would go through it again. But sorry, let me just throw the ball back to you. I asked you a lot of questions that were on my mind, but what did we not talk about? Something that you might think is important for people to understand, something that you might think that people on the outside just have no connection with, that you would like to transmit to them. What is important to you, like something you would like to tell people?
Well, talking to someone like you, I think that's a great opportunity. I think a lot of people understand now the evilness of Zionism and Zionists, but this is, you wouldn't believe, I guess you would believe now, what the Israelis do. I mean, for example, at the beginning of the genocide, there was this surgeon at the Shifa hospital in western Gaza City, and he was abducted by Israeli forces, and his name is Adnan al-Barf, and he was, I think, sexually assaulted and tortured to death. Now, why would you abduct a surgeon and torture him to death? A terrorist organization would do that. And the Israeli military, it's a terrorist organization. They have done so many things. Something recent that I remember, it's from a month ago. It was a girl in Jabalia, the ruins of Jabalia, near the so-called Yellow Line, which Israel has been pushing westwards, just taking more and more land and stealing it. She was shot by Israeli forces. She's like in elementary school, possibly, and I saw a picture of her dad holding her like on a bike or something, and he was trying to get to the hospital, but she was killed. There are no hospitals in that area, and so he has to go a long distance to reach the hospital, and she didn't make it. There was this story a few months ago about two little brothers.
Yeah.
They were 8 and 11. They were collecting wood in Gaza, and they were struck by Israel. It was a drone strike, and the Israeli military said on X that there were two suspects doing suspicious activities, and they did that. They bound them to remove the threat or whatever, and they were two children. 8 and 11. That's their age. You have countless stories. I mean, I remember there was a girl who had a chronic illness and she needed to leave Gaza for medical treatment. She couldn't get treatment here. And after she died, she died, like she was ill and she died. She didn't get out, wasn't medically, she died. And after a month, her dad or her parents received a message that her evacuation was approved. So the takeaway is that Zionism is a vile, satanic, demonic ideology. There's no reasoning with Zionism. Zionism has to be crushed. That's the truth.
Is it possible for you to distinguish between Zionism and Judaism? Do you think it is important to make that distinction?
So Israel is the Jewish state, and most of the people committing these crimes are Jewish. To some people outside, they think that just because you're a Jew, it means you have a blank check to do whatever you want. I am against genocide. I'm against Zionism. Whether the Zionist is a Jewish person or not, you are judged by your actions. So if you're Jewish and you commit a crime, then you're a bad guy. You're bad. But to other persons, no, that's anti-Semitic if you say that. So whether whether Israel was Jewish or not, it's an occupation. So them being Jewish doesn't. I'm not afraid to say that they are Jewish because they are. But the reason I'm against them is because they're Zionists.
Yes. And one of the things that's on my mind a lot these days is how important it is to make this, to differentiate, right? Because Zionism is a political ideology that wants Israel as a Jewish state for the Jews only, whereas you have a lot of Jews who don't want that, a lot of Jews who reject that and who do not want a Jewish state at all. So, and a lot of them are outside of Israel. And then you have a lot of Christians who are also Zionists, and they also want the Jewish state, but not because they want a home for the Jews, it's because they want to bring about the end days. So you have more Christian Zionists than Jewish Zionists.
Yeah,
and
you have Mike Huckabee, the Israeli,
yeah.
He's a lunatic. You probably have seen him in his interview with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
From the Niles to the Euphrates. Tucker asked him, what's that? And he said, it would be fine if they took it all. That's a Zionist. He's a Christian, he's not Jewish. But he's a Zionist. And he's a lunatic. Mike Huckabee, it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, he was responding to Trump. Trump said, without the US, there would be no Israel. Israel would not exist, which is factually true. And so Mike Huckabee said, without Israel or Jewish values or something like this, the US would not exist. That's how deep the rot is. They are irredeemable.
It is the level to which Zionism, people who believe in Zionism, who are part of the political project, the way that this overwrites even nationalist ideals, like, being as a US citizen or US ambassador, taking the sides of the United States, that should be the kind of most straightforward thing in the world. But Zionism is able to overwrite that and replace it with a completely different set of values. First and foremost, your loyalty to Israel as a political project. And you, of course, in Gaza are on the end where all the violence is actually unloaded, and Gaza suffered more kinetic damage more bombs, more kilograms of TNT were dropped on Gaza than in Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. Maybe just just to end this interview also, like if there's still something that you would like people to be aware of, can you share that with us, or maybe also your hopes for the future?
My hope is for the occupation to end, for Gaza to be reconstructed, to go back to the way it was. And I want people outside, like I said, to work and have an impact uh, and be effective against the support their governments gave to Israel. Uh, like I said, it's a process. It's a long process. It doesn't happen overnight, but it should be done. Keep calling for an arms embargo. Keep pressuring politicians. Elect candidates who do not support genocide. Keep doing that. And things will change. Things are changing. I don't see them changing here in Gaza, not yet. But they are changing in many places, and this will continue to happen.
I hope so, and we must change it. I mean, it must not go on like this. Mohammad, people who would like to follow you and your work, is there a place where you publish your videos or publish writing or anything?
I do not write actually, but I have a small X account. I'm not very active on X, but you can. My handle is Moh AlTurk, MoHAlTurk. You
Okay.
can just DM me if you wanted to reach out.
I will try to put the link to your Twitter feed into the description box below, and we will certainly have you on this show again. Please do write and tell me also if something is moving on the ground that might be important to broadcast. Mohammad Al Turk, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Pascal.